Okay, you've set this video camera up down in my workroom in the basement, and I'm going to try to show you how you're going to build your next project. So I hope this will work. Last week I already put a notice or a posting of this cell phone stand that I made, and I'm going to try to build on how I want you guys to build one. So I'm going to show you the mistakes on mine and everything, and how I want you to do better. But first, before I show you how I did it, I'm going to show you where the inspiration came from. This is a decorative bowl that we have when my wife and I lived in Asia. And what I like about a lot of Asian designs is the essence of simplicity. This thing really is just two pieces, but you notice how they notched it together. It just sort of interlocks like that. There's no glue, there's no tape, there's no screws, there's nothing. And then it just sits there. Kind of, if you've ever watched Star Trek, it's that sort of Vulcan thing. You know how the Vulcans greet? They put their fingers together, something like that. So that's one trick of how you can do it. There's a similar idea, and I can't find one in our house, but if you've ever seen cardboard boxes that hold wine bottles or beer bottles or something, you'll often see the cardboard. It's cut like that so it interlocks as it goes together. There are other ways that you've seen cardboard boxes, how they use tabs and stuff. And the beauty of all of these ideas is there's no tape, there's no glue. Everything goes together because of the way it's put together. So it's not that complicated. I had this thing lying around. Again, notches, things just slide into place. So it works out very well. For this cell phone stand, I did the same idea. I just made these little pieces and I cut these little notches out. And as I was building it for my design, I started seeing some mistakes. But really, it's just a few pieces. These two are identical with notches, and these three were identical. Well, not quite identical, but they were supposed to be identical with notches. And then when I put it together, it stood together. The mistake, there was a few mistakes. One of the mistakes was I did not do some measuring with my cell phone as carefully as I should have, or I didn't realize on my cell phone what some of the mistakes were. So for example, I thought I had it figured out really nicely to sit on here, but I didn't realize my cell phone has all these rounded corners. So when I went to put it in here, it always keeps sliding like this. It doesn't really fit properly. The other challenge I made, a mistake I think I made, is I used just regular cardboard. I think you've heard it being called corrugated cardboard, where there's just two layers and it has that corrugated cardboard in between. And when you cut corrugated cardboard, this happens. This kind of stuff. So what I'm hoping to do is later on, I found some of this foam board that my son had from a project at his school. I'm going to try to make a similar design out of foam board and see how well it will work. I wasn't really happy with this design. Really just square, boxy looking thing. I was trying to do something a bit more fancy, but it was just a rush. So I hope to post a video on how to do that. For you to do this at home, there's a few things I need to talk about just for safety. Cutting cardboard well is a challenge if you don't have the proper tools. So I'm just going to go through a couple of suggestions that might help. Mistake students do at school, and it really ticks me off, is they start using knives right on the desks. And they don't realize when they do that, you make marks, you make cuts. So they come into the school and they go start doing this and cutting, and they're gouging up the desk. If you're going to do this at home, I don't think people would be very happy if you start cutting around on the kitchen table or somewhere. So get a cutting board from the kitchen. That's what they're for. You can cut on them. If that doesn't work, maybe somewhere in your basement or in your garage you might just have a scrap piece of wood and use it as a cutting board if you're better inclined. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay, but please make sure that you're cutting. Next thing people do is they make mistakes cutting. I was cutting some meat in the kitchen the other day, and I slipped and I went in and I cut my finger because I forgot to do what we all should be doing. When you're cutting, you should be always thinking, where's my knife gonna go? So you don't do something like this and then you bring the knife in harm's way in front of your hand. You should be always holding it somewhere so when you cut, you know where the knife's going to go. If I do this and I go like this, I might come in and cut myself. So again, that knife isn't going to hit anybody and it gets out of the harm's way. So I'm always thinking, where's my hands? Where's my body? If something slips, where's it going to go? So I don't cut myself. So think about where you use your knife, how you hold, and plan your cuts. The biggest mistake, if you ever talk to a chef, is to use a dull knife. A dull knife doesn't cut well, it doesn't go where you want it. Similar when you're using a knife, make sure your knife is sharp. If you have access to one of these kinds of blades, you'll notice, well, mine's kind of beat up here, but you'll notice there's little notches. And the idea is when this part gets dull, you just break it off and then you have new blade. Make sure that you dispose of that properly. Don't just leave it around. That's sharp too. But then you have brand new blade. If it's really bad, you might buy a new one. If you have one of these kinds of blades or cutters, again, if it's not sharp, what a lot of people don't realize with these kind is you can replace that blade. If you take this apart, probably if you have one, you look inside, that blade actually can be taken out and switched over and use the other side. I already switched it because it was so dull. And a lot of these have a secret stash inside where you can put new blades. So you might have a brand new blade inside, or you can store the old ones there out of harm's way again. A few of you may have a knife like this. It's often called an X-Acto or a pen knife, an X-Acto knife or a pen knife. And I had some new ones. You can get those. I don't know if you're going to buy them or not. You may just use scissors, but I don't think scissors are going to work very well. You may think you have a nice sharp knife, something like this lying around, you know, from camping or something else. But again, if it's not sharp, you're better off not to use it. I happen to have some razor blades that were meant for cleaning glass windows and stuff. They have a protective blade guard on that side of the blade, but it's dangerous to me. I would not suggest you use a regular razor blade because it'll be sharp on both edges. These two are probably your best bet if you have access to them. Okay? I think that's all. What I'm going to ask you to do is by the end of the week, you're going to have one of these done to fit your device. It doesn't have to be a cell phone if you had a tablet or something, and it needs to be at least something as basic as this, if not more complicated. You might put a curve in it, you might make some kind of a design on it, etc. For today, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, of course, is to sketch an idea. But again, I want you to think this, that simple idea. Your final design will be something like this, or better than this, I hope. No tape, no glue, no staples, nothing. It all has to interlock. Good luck.